All right,
All right, so
good afternoon,
good afternoon,
everyone.
everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, I think
So I
welcome to
think
day
welcome
two
to
of
day two of
AdMark.
AdMark.
Firstly, I
Firstly,
really
I
want to
really want to
appreciate
appreciate
Objectify
Objectify
efforts.
efforts.
Uh, it's unusual
Usual
for a
for
company
a
into
company
services
into
to
services to
bring
bring
everybody
everybody
on the same
on the same
platform
platform
agnostically,
agnostically,
hosting content,
hosting
hosting
content, hosting
information. I
information.
think it's a
I
very,
think it's
very
a
good
very, very good
initiative.
initiative.
Um,
Um,
so, with that,
so with that,
I would like to
we would
start
like
the
to start the
session.
session.
I am
I
Pankaj
am
Shah.
Pankaj Shah.
I
I
represent
represent
Srivathi
Srivathi
Technologies.
Technologies.
We offer
We
digital
offer digital
manufacturing
manufacturing
solutions
solutions
from
from
scanning to
scanning,
design
design,
to print to
to
post
print to post
processing.
processing.
I personally
I
have been in
personally have
additive
been in additive
manufacturing for
manufacturing
almost
for
10 years
almost 10
now.
years now.
And it's my
And it's
privilege
my
today
privilege
to
today to
absolutely
absolutely
host
host
the esteemed
the esteemed
panelists whom I
panelists whom
personally
I
know.
personally know.
And
And
with that, I'll end my
that I'll end my
introduction.
introduction.
And with
And
this,
with
I
this,
will ask Nishant, can you please introduce yourself for 2 minutes?
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Nishant Shah. I'm one of the directors in Imaginarium. Imaginarium is one of the leading rapid prototyping and additive manufacturing service bureaus. I personally have been involved in additive manufacturing for over 12, 13 years now. Um and my journey started with a British company, and around 6 years back, I felt the need of introducing the way the world is working in additive manufacturing into India and normal advanced manufacturing also, and that's where I partnered with Imaginary. So again, just reiterating what some kids said, I think it's a fantastic initiative that Objectify has taken, and I congratulate Ankit and Arpit on this great platform initiative that they started.
Thank you, Nishant. Maltesh sir, next, please, can you introduce yourself?
Glad, gladly. Firstly, thanks to Ankit, Arpit, and Objectify team for setting up this stage, a stage where all of us can come, discuss, and share our thoughts. I'm the director of Supercraft 3D, and Supercraft 3D has been in operations for a little over 5 years now. We focus on medical 3D printing, both polymer as well as metal 3D printing. I started my 3D printing journey at Wipro 3D, and that's how I got into the 3D printing business and came out, started off on my own with the help of some investors, and that's about it for now.
Thank you, Maltesh sir. Mahesh sir, can you please introduce yourself? Thank you.
Yeah. Hello everyone. I'm Mahesh Duka. I'm the founder director of Incredible AM. And so first of all, Sankit, thank you for inviting me on this panel. And I really thank Ankit and Arpit to be one of the people who have organized this. These guys are the flag bearers of one of the flag bearers of AM industry in India, and I know that they are doing a great job with what I hear in the market. So as Incredible, we are into on the engineering side and the medical side both. On the engineering side, we all know it's more of the prototyping and small batch production, and on the medical side, it's more about the implants and even the jigs and fixtures. Right now, live surgery is going on in Bangalore with one of a famous oncosurgeon for a scapular and humerus implant, which again a big achievement for us to get there. So we have been in this business for the last 3 years, and I think this is the only business where I've lost more hair in 3 years than I've lost in 20 years with my other businesses. So, so far AEM has been a big struggle. Now I still remember my first meeting with Sridhar sir, and in Starbucks, and the first line he told me that, "Are you ready for the struggle?" And I said, "Yeah, probably, but probably I didn't realize it's going to be that big a struggle." So, thank you, Sridhar sir. I think he's one of the guys I really admire with respect to the AM industry for the things that he's done. So, thank you again. Thank you all for having me here. It's a pleasure to have everyone together. I think having all the service providers or people in business together is, I think, a great thing that Objectify has done, and I think more of it will help to grow this industry rather than fighting it out, on the streets. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Sridhar, sir, can you please take center stage and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, hello everyone, and I'm firstly honored to be amongst the superstars of AM industry from India. And yeah, I am the founder director of Intech, and my background is from a foundry industry. We do a lot of machining and sub-assemblies. We primarily were working for excavator industry, but moved on from there and started off almost 10 years ago with Intech. And we've graduated ourselves to from services all the way up to providing an ecosystem with complete solutions for AM manufacturing, which include software and hardware. Right. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Thank you very much, sir. Unfortunately, one of our panelists isn't able to join us currently. As soon as he's able to connect back, I will also want him to introduce. But thank you. To be very honest, when I saw the panelists, 20 minutes of interviewing of almost 50 combined years of experience, I felt injustice, but we have to respect the time. So I will not waste any further time. I personally have a lot of questions, and I hope for once people don't have a question, because I need to ask a lot of questions. So I'll start with my first question with Nishant. Nishant, my first impression in 2010-11 was about Imaginarium. It was kind of a poster boy image, we could literally visualize a digital factory. It was pretty big in scale 10 years ago. And at that time, a lot of people said about you being industry specific, but now after a decade, after doing jewelry, after doing engineering, now you have a tool room. You also doing healthcare. So it's wide. It's challenging to get one thing right. You all have done 4 things and to a certain scale. So I want to understand your experience, but importantly, what do you think lies ahead, and if possible, what next probably?
So, thank you for making us the poster boys. We are not. We are just trying to make pathways for our friends in the industry. As you rightly said, I think the journey has been very, very exciting. At the same time, not easy. There are a lot of learning curves that we've gone through with each of the business vertical that we have today, be it jewelry or healthcare or engineering. And each vertical in itself is a huge business. For example, engineering, we are touching with almost 30 plus industries today. When it comes to healthcare, there is unlimited avenues you can do with additive manufacturing. So it has been a great journey, but even today we feel like a large startup, and there is much more to achieve. Speaking of the next steps, I think we are very focused on taking India and Imaginarium globally, the outreach globally. We want people to start accepting India as one of the manufacturing hubs, moving away from other South Asian countries. So in that sense, we are, strategically looking at adding more capacity for additive manufacturing and also traditional manufacturing. So we've not limited ourselves just to additive, but we are also going traditional, because the goal is to have end-to-end manufacturing solutions. So we're backward integrated into traditional manufacturing technology, and we forward integrated, and we created our digital platform. So it was one of the first online ordering additive manufacturing platforms in the country, as you rightly know. And we've also now incubated a design cell into Imaginarium. So that will enable our clients and future prospects to design products, where they need help hand-holding and designing. And right from designing to the end manufacturing, we envision we can be the right partners for them. So that's pretty much the goal right now.
Thanks, Nishant. Thanks a lot. I would want to go to Dr. Vishwas Puttige, sir. We missed you in the introduction, so I would like you to introduce yourself and your company's foray into AM. So can you just brief the attendees about your
Sure.
Sure. Thank you, Sanketh and Objectify for this opportunity. I'm Vishwas Putige from the AS Micromatic Group. The additive wing of the group is called as Amaze Solutions. AS Micromatic has been into machine tools for over 40 plus years now, and we've been making different types of technologies, CNC turning machines, machining centers, grinding machines, etc. And about 5 years ago, we ventured into additive, which we converted into another company itself called as Amaze Solutions. So we've been actively working on providing services to different sectors, automotive, aerospace, the tool and die making industry, education, defense, and some of the general engineering applications. And very soon, we are also upgrading ourselves to solutions from just services. So it'll be information will be available soon. But we've had a diverse experience of both additive and subtractive. As you've known, we not only make products in our machine tool line, we also give solutions, which means customers could come to us with very little knowledge of producing a part with just enough information in terms of what they're intending to do, and we can design the entire shop floor for them in terms of the subtractive. We are looking at doing on the same lines for the additive and augmenting the whole capabilities into bringing in additive also as a value-added service that we are offering to our customers. So that is a nutshell introduction of what AS Micromatic Group's experience has been in the AM line so far.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
My next, I'll go back to the question and answer session. My next question is Sridhar, sir. Sridhar sir, I think anyone in AM, everyone knows about your foray, and probably the Indian industry started AM metal after you. My question is, you started with first services for metal, but there are times when you get into a very sunrise industry, and there are 2 points. You either figure out problems and you start looking for solutions, or you start defining solutions. What changed my understanding of Intech was, first step was to get into the software segment of it. And then, you took an even bigger leap in the hardware segment of it, which is, innovation-based, brutal. So, in a time where typically we see people want to opt for whatever is available, you are actually creating what is unavailable. So what motivates you? And why have you chosen such magnanimous steps? It's really commendable. So I just wanted to know from you more, sir. Thank you. In the meanwhile, if I can ask other panelists to mute ourselves, I think there can be.
Yeah, it's a very large question. Anyway, so I'll answer it in parts, I guess. So in the initial days, we were all told that 3D printing, the 3D printer was more like a Xerox machine. You input data on one side and then you get finished parts on the other side. Though I didn't really consume this completely, but I knew there would be challenges. But when I got closer, there were a lot more challenges than I really thought I would have. And so some of the gaps that we identified over the last 10 years of rich and laborious experience, right, is that the ease of use, the steep requirement in skill sets, then the learning curve, the steep learning curve for people to get into the industry, the high rate of rejections during the learning phase that we had, the cost of production being exorbitant, the speed of production and the scalability not there, so people restricted themselves to prototyping in per se. Then more challengingly, it was not in the reach of the common MSMEs or the SMEs, which form our backbone of the manufacturing industry. So apart from this, we had the big capex issue, and then we also had the opex issue, which sometimes was a black box for us until you lose a laser, and then you realize that a laser costs almost 25% of the machine, which is ridiculous some point in time. Yeah, but then the spares were too high, and then of course the AMC itself. So all of this then drove us to look out for solutions, and then see how we could push the industry towards a faster adoption. This was the mindset that we started off in. So the whole idea was to get the part first time right, and the cost per part to be comparable to conventional manufacturing costs, right? And then the ROI. So the main factor, I think, for any user who comes up with this 3D systems is the justification of the ROI. I mean, there is no point in trying to say this is a fantastic technology and then it sits there on top of the shelf. Nothing happens. It has to move forward. And for all of this, I think end of the day, it all boils down to cost and ROI. So I think that is where it is very important. Then we also thought we should optimize the digital manufacturing itself, right? So where we could take full advantage of the remote manufacturing, and also be working towards the dark factory concepts, right? Now, and the last point I would say here is to increase the reach and affordability to the industry, right? That is probably what really drove us. Now, for all this, we came up with solutions, which I thought was very essential for us, is to try and build a complete ecosystem with hardware and software integrated. So the hardware is being smarter and more intelligent, and we developed softwares like AM Optimate, which could develop parameters on the fly. And so that was very important for us. And then we also made a software called AM Builder, which is an automated build process software, which guides the user to get the part first time right, controls distortion, and going forward, maybe in a very short while, I think even supportless printing. So this is what we want to do, so that this is enabling users to get their parts first time right, and then reduce rejections, and probably jump into production as quickly as possible. And so we also thought we should bring up a smart and capable, scalable hardware, which can produce with an MHR. The aim is to look at 1,000 to 5,500 rupees per probably brings down most of the parts identified into conventional pricing range, right? Then Intech also strongly believes that this is an industry technology which is software driven. So it's a software driven tech. So all our software should be driven by hardware, and that's what we are bringing out a slew of softwares apart from AM Builder, Optimate, called AM Explore, AM Quality, and AM Planner, which is more an AR machine itself. Now, apart from this, we would also like to bring about some customized hardware to applications and specific to customer requirements for large-scale production, or let me call it a slow volume. In addition to this, we are also, trying to push boundaries when it comes to new technology development, which is the background. The time frames are anywhere between a year to 2 years, or maybe a little bit more. I believe, and I strongly believe this, is that the production rates from the current rate that we have multiply into 10 times to 15 times, right, from the current rates. This is what we strongly believe, and that's what we are trying to work on. And then obviously here and combine to make this system and the process robust. Lastly, our efforts are large-scale manufacturing. So for that, we are looking at automated solutions in remote manufacturing and dark factories, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah, but there are a lot more.
My question was fairly large for you to cover up, but thank you for the same. My next question is to Maltesh sir. Again, probably are not very clear for me, but probably even you were one of the first to start metal AM. Interesting point is always a larger brand entering a sunrise industry gives a boost to the entire industry in terms of brand. I think that was a large contribution. What was more interesting is that when you decided to start Supercraft, there were two things which really struck me out. For complete focus on healthcare in a time when nothing is proven, nothing is clear. You decided that I'll just do medical. And second, of course, it made headlines everywhere. You raising funding, so probably raising funding again. It is it's good for business operations, but that also gives a lot of validation to other industry folks. It's kind of validation that others look up to. So I just want to understand two minor questions from that. How is your journey being from some complete focus? Because if a service bureau can be difficult, then a product focus can be extremely challenging. So one is that, but I feel COVID has it's been an unfortunate year for most, but I think at least for the healthcare, it seems to be on the right side. So 2 points from you if I could have it. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Thanks, Samkit, for a couple of questions. As far as starting a new company and focusing on a particular sector or a product, it's been challenging. I won't say that it's been a cakewalk. It's been very challenging. But I think over the years, people tend to validate your product. It's very, very naive to think that the day you start something, the industry will welcome you and accept you, and the rest of the customers will immediately adopt your product. It's going to take time, right? And that's true for anybody who enters into a product specific industry. You have to come showcase your product, validate your credentials, validate your design methodology, as well as prove what you did is correct. Over the years that we've done hundreds of implants and thousands of surgical models, and I don't know, countless number of other things that we've done. Doctors today don't question the capability or the design functionality of the product that we do. And I think that goes for most other 3D printing industries as well. People no longer question 3D printing. They're aware of it. And I think that's the journey that's been for everybody else as well, right? And in terms of, what's COVID doing? COVID has hit a lot of industries hard, and I would not say it has been any better for healthcare. Contrary to the belief that the healthcare industry is thriving in this thing, it's only select sectors of healthcare industries that are thriving. Maybe masks and gloves and those sort of industries, and now oxygen concentrator. So very few industries. But if you look at hospitals and surgicals, they've had a very tough thing. But there's a lot to gain from this in the future. And why I mean this is, if you go back to 1818 plague, if you go back to 1918 swine flu, 2018, every 100 years we have some sort of a industry shakeup. And each of these has benefited that particular industry. And it was only in 1918 that most countries started to have a dedicated health minister. Until then, democracies didn't have a health minister. It was only after 1918 and 1920s that people started, government started considering public health care as a necessity. NHS came into place, as well as US started adopting industry-wide insurance, employee-based insurance mechanisms, and there was a consolidation of this thing. So usually crowd diseases, and I call this COVID as a crowd disease. Unlike health, someone who's having a cardiac problem in the country, we have diabetes as an issue in this country. That's not going to change significantly what happens to the whole ecosystem. But crowd diseases, plagues and flus and pandemics, they make a significant difference to how governments look at healthcare in the future. For last 70 years, ever since this government, India has been formed, we've had employee state insurance, ESI, and everybody pays ESI, employees pay, everybody pays that. Where is that insurance money going? Especially, and you get to reflect about it during these pandemic times. we have government hospitals which can't take care of even a single COVID patient. So there will be questions asked. May not be today, may not be in the next 6 months, but eventually governments will be asked questions as to how they're going to handle this entire healthcare system. So, and I think India will go through that healthcare paradigm shift in how they're going to handle this. And I believe 3D printing industry will benefit from that as well.
Thank you, sir. The more conversations I have with you, there are two key takeaways for me. Of course, knowledge, I think, apart from 3D printing grows, but sometimes those humor and wisdom also adds up a lot. So thank you for your insights. Connecting to the same question, I would like to go to Mahesh sir. Mahesh sir, a similar endeavor, again, a very big name in you're also brand value in the medical or pharmaceutical is big. Plus, your decision was fairly bold, to invest a significant amount in setting up a setup as a first step, because most people start with small steps in the big one. You started with the big one. So I want to, like I told Mahesh sir, Maltesh sir, that product focus could be more challenging, and you are also going to the regulatory way. So that again is a different set of challenge. So would you like to share challenges? But I would like to also know what is it that you think is the bottleneck? From learning from challenges, we need to define bottlenecks. So what do you think could be a bottleneck that could be addressed? Thank you.
So thank you, Samkit. I think the journey with AM is going to be continuously with bottlenecks. I don't think there is an end to bottlenecks as we grow, because at every stage you have another bottleneck. So at a stage, if your machine is doing well, you need to buy another machine. So it needs a lot of capital. You don't know which machine to buy. So there are a lot of bottlenecks that I see. When we started off, the way the machine is being sold, it is being sold like a nice, like an ice cream vendor. You just press it, or a Pepsi machine, and the Pepsi comes out, or that soft ice cream comes out, and the customer goes away happily. Here, it's a struggle to get the part out, and especially with metal AM, where the costs are so high. I mean, every time a build fails, your heart sinks, because it's taken away a few thousands of rupees away. So when I say bottleneck, I think AM 3 years back was a huge hype. I think it was a big hype. Probably it was not a hype in Europe and USA, where the cost of a man hour is much higher than even our machine cost. So I think it was a big hype when it was 3 years back. I would still say it's a big hype now. It's only when you get cheaper machines, you get cheaper softwares, you get more trained manpower, you get better designers. I think only then you will see a lesser of bottlenecks. But if I say bottlenecks, I think one of the biggest bottleneck with engineering was a lot of customers are refusing to change their designs, refusing to go to topology optimization or weight reduction, for which AM has come into the picture. It's all conventional parts. This is what is made with CNC, they want to make with AM. Now, this machine costs 50 lakhs, this costs 5 crores, this makes 500 parts a day, and this can make only 5 parts a day. So you are hit on both the sides. So the costs are going to be so high. So I think if you say with engineering, a lot of bottlenecks have been fighting with conventional technology. Here we have CNC guys who make 1 or 2 parts also and give us with little additional cost. Maybe 1,000 rupees an hour, maybe 500 rupees an hour, they give you those parts. There's no design change that engineering companies are agreeing to do, because the guy at the design says, okay, I can change the design, but there are so many cycles and so many processes that it has to go through before it's validated and put into a vehicle or put into a machine. So I think that's one of the biggest challenge. Cost is definitely a huge challenge in India. In 3 years, the price of the AM, we calculated per hour, you can say, what it was 3 years back, it's already gone down by 50%. So you can imagine in 3 years, you hardly recovered your ROI or your money, and your revenue per hour goes down by 50%. So very rarely you see in new technologies the cost going down so rapidly, and you still have the big elephants in your shop floor. If you see most of the companies in AM in India who are the big, many of us over here, all have been backed by parent companies with a lot of financial muscle, or by funds, or by investors. Can this business be run by someone who can take a bank loan and start this business? No, it's impossible. You will not be able to do it. Within 2 or 3 years, you would have to shut down, because but the ROI is not there so fast, and it's going to take a lot of time to pump money every year to run the show. So I think that's one of the big challenges when you go to engineering. When you go to medical, there are a little different challenges, like Mr. Matesh has rightly said. I think one of the biggest challenges, every implant will decide whether you have done your job well or not. Every implant. So we've completed 600 surgeries across India now. Every day there's a surgery, the heart is pumping because you don't know what's going to happen, because there's a patient who's going to be, your implant is going to be put into the patient, and he needs to be healthy and fine. So there is no, what do you call, when you're doing the healthcare part of it. And like you said, COVID has actually had a bad impact on the business, because most of the hospitals have been converted to COVID. I know a few hospital guys, they say there's more money in COVID, converting into a COVID hospital than, putting implants, knee implants, or even 3D printed implants. So that's a challenge. Another thing in medical is surgeons. We have brilliant surgeons in India who, can use any implant and put anything, but getting to them, explaining to them the technology, they have 2 minutes, 3 minutes for you. These guys are looking up to, doing 10 surgeries in a day, meeting 200 patients in OPD in a day. It's a challenge to make them understand the technology, how it can be used, help them to use the technology. So that's a huge challenge. Then there's, like I said, cost of software, designing, then the patient doesn't have insurance. Unfortunately, if you see, most of our patients in India are the poor patients. Our patients, accident, trauma, patients are poor. So it's always a struggle at what price. I'm sure Maltesh would be aware that the hospital comes to you running that, can you charge this at 1/3 the price or 1/4 the price? So, those challenges are there. And then you have regulation challenges. You have competitors who don't have certifications and they sell implants in India. So, the platform is not the same. So I think AM is still a long way off to being a mainstream business, to being a profitable business, and to being a business where any common man, like how he picks up a CNC and starts his company, he would pick up a AM machine and start. Hopefully, I think with Sridhar sir or with Dr. Vishwas getting, cheaper machines, better machines, faster machines, probably we could realize those dreams. Otherwise, I think it's still far away from the hype that has been created for AM. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. I think two takeaways. When you said bottlenecks are never going to end, I saw a very light smile on Sridhar sir and Maltesh sir's face. So that was interesting, and you also spoke about the hairline eroding. I think I, at a fairly young age, also am facing the same concern. So I agree that it's it's a challenge. We have Vishwas sir, and I really want to make sure we make the most. But before that, I want to thank again Ankit and Arpit. They've extended our time for 20 minutes. And I really have a lot more to answer. Vishwas sir, am I audible to you? Sir, so my question is to you. Actually, my first question was already answered in your introduction, that when someone like a big brand in a machine tool industry makes a foray in AM, again it's the benefit for AM, because it gives a lot of confidence and awareness about it. You already spoke about your integration, which is absolutely important. I think Sridhar sir and Mahesh sir mentioned about integration. So what I would say is that what you've already spent, I think, 4 or 5 years in AM. What can we expect the AM industry to look like in the next couple of years? What is your understanding? Maybe I'll direct a direct question to you. Before, there was always a concern that will 3D printing replace a machine tool? Is it complementary? Is it supplementary? That was my poll question for today, but I don't want to miss out on your feedback. So, what do you think? It's supplementary? It's complementary?
Well, actually, in fact, we got into the whole field of additive only to find out if it is actually going to replace us. They say the best way of offense is the best form of defense. So we thought before we become the floppy disks of tomorrow, we need to get into this industry to find out, can we actually befriend the foe? So we did all our research to find out, and I can confidently say definitely additive is not here to disrupt the subtractive technology. It is here only to complement it very well. I think for a good number of years, I'm sure most of us would agree it's going to complement the excess manufacturing very well, because there's still a lot of gaps between what additive can do and as Mahesh rightly identified, our acceptance and our understanding of the whole technology, and to be able to learn completely the benefits that additive has to offer, and then bring the best out of it. There's still a long way to go for that. So from that perspective, I feel for many years, both the technologies, both the subtractive and additive, will coexist and will live continually together. They're going to be, that's the idea, what we have in mind, to be able to give portfolio to our customers. Inherently, we are a very risk-averse country. So as Mahesh rightly pointed out, we are a little concerned about adapting anything new on our own unless we have a customer who's telling, hey, look, I insist on this to be done only on the additive way, which we are yet to find, because a lot of our customers either have a Western influence or are sitting in the West who believe they can do it as a outsourced country. So from that perspective, we still a little away from being able to get customers to give us that mandate telling this is a part designed specifically in 3D printing or for 3D printing. You need to stop doing the conventional way and start doing it the additive way. So I think for a good amount of time, we'll find ways of how subtractive can continue to be there, but we are also seeing a good increasing interest among people, at least some of the early adapters who feel that additive can be explored. Someone who is not hard pressed for the kitna deta hai kind of attitude, who are able to actually see beyond the immediate ROI and who are willing to go that extra mile and invest in the technology today, who are actually trying to see and find out how they can do that in a little extra investment in terms of getting the part right at the cost of learning the technology and also giving that extra benefit to their customers. So I strongly believe for at least a good 5 to 8 years time, the technology is here going to be coexisting with the subtractive one. And it's not that a change is going to happen overnight, unlike the digital world that we live in. And I gave an example of the floppy disks and even CD drives. It's going to be a very steady state transition that is going to happen with a visible change that's going to be seen. In fact, to a lot of our customers, we keep telling this is on the same lines how the conventional manufacturing to the CNC machining came in place. When it originally came, people felt CNC machining was very expensive compared to the conventional ones. But to be able to meet certain requirements of either higher productivity levels or better quality levels or higher better reliability of the whole process, people had to switch to a CNC route or an automated manufacturing route, which today is commonplace. I mean, today almost everybody has a CNC machine, very few conventional machines left. So it took a solid 30 plus years to get to this stage. So I feel additive also will have a very smooth growth and a transition, unless there's a much stronger disruptor, which could be in the form of either automobile manufacturers or the larger manufacturing players trying to switch in a much faster adaptive way. So I think that is going to be what is going to be deciding. And today we are seeing people using additive for not just for production. Of course, prototyping and small batches we've all seen happening in the past 4 or 5 years, but from supporting aids for production is what we are seeing today, which is what is interesting. People are exploring and doing research in terms of either doing tools and dies or fixturing for their assemblies or machining or even inspection that's happening through the additive way. So I believe there's a lot of opportunity, and additive has much more than just the traditional subtractive manufacturing to offer, which is not just making the part ready, but also it's widening the horizon by taking an aspect from either your casting, forging, or your whole raw material preparation, all the way going to finishing it and also enhancing the properties of the part. So that's the flexibility that a manufacturer gets. And of course, when people start seeing the benefit and actually seeing the value that additive has to offer, then we will see a lot more adaptability. Today, like what many of them mention, it is a lot of push from manufacturers today to explain and bring in that awareness. But once it becomes common, I think it will become an automatic pull from the market, who will start feeling that, yes, I believe there is merit in this. The small lopside is India has very few early adapters. We always look at 10 of our neighbors who have adapted a technology before we decide, hey, look, they have purchased it, they have invested in this technology. We also can probably go ahead and do that. So we always follow others. So we have few people who can say, I would want to go in and try this out before others. So I see this is what will be the only differentiator. But that has given us good merits in the past many years. Slow but steady. We are seeing today a lot of manufacturing is moving to India. So while some of the manufacturing may switch from being, say, for example, aerospace and medical being the early markets or industries who are adapting this technology, while they may start reducing the usage of subtractive manufacturing, doors are going to open up for many others. Today, if you see, most of the electronic manufacturing are switching to India, while the demand for those technologies are going to increase. So it's the overall volume is definitely going to remain similar. There's plenty of opportunity both for subtractive and additive going ahead and coexist together.
Thank you so much, sir. And I think your starting statement itself it clears people's doubt, because people get into it trying to push that I want to replace something. The fact is that when you accept that we have to look at it as an either or, not just an and function, or either or function, but an and function. It helps people address customers better. So supplementing, complementing is something people should really believe in and approach it in that way, rather than completely supplementing. And I think that's a very big takeaway from you, sir. Thank you so much. I will now directly go to questions, because we have 8 minutes. To all those, I've been seeing some questions in the discussion group. I request you to please post them in the question and answer a segment of it. I'll start one after the other, and I'll try to address it to relevant people. The question is, what kind of future can we expect from export of 3D printing services? And this I would like to address to Nishant, because I know you've been doing some export, not only just printing, but you've been doing shows abroad for exporting services. So what is your water testing? How do you think it is, and what is the possibility?
I think the testing journey is still on. It's been a long journey. So right from 3-4 years back, when we first participated in Formnext, we wanted to test the waters. What I realized is, to answer the question shortly, the answer is yes. You can export 3D printed parts and the service, but it's not just plain vanilla 3D printing. It has to be something more than 3D printing. For example, something combined with the design, something where we are doing the end manufacturing, application-based 3D printing, where we are helping customers handpick a few parts and redesign it and restructure it for adapting to 3D printing. So DFAM, as we call it, design for additive manufacturing. So anything with value add, 100%, I think that's the avenue we feel where you can export 3D printed parts and services. And obviously for end manufacturing, because at the end of the day, as everyone on the call and the panel knows, it's not a very labor intensive business, again. So wherever labor comes in, specifically in metal 3D printing, because you require a lot of other subtractive manufacturing post the print, that's where we have an advantage over the other countries, and we can export these services.
Okay, thank you, Nishant. There were two questions for Dr. Vishwas. Both were pertaining, some you partially answered, but this were particularly, they expect your answer, so I'm putting it out to you, sir. First is, when do you take a suitable call of to choose CNC or metal AM? And a follow-up is that, during COVID times, a lot of European countries or American started to replace Chinese with Indian alternatives. What do you think that could be with AM as well? So if you could throw some light. In short, because we have a very long list of questions, so if you could, sir. Oh, I think we lost him.
I'd like to answer the first question there. If you actually see,
Yeah.
I hope I'm audible. So if you actually see the first question that you asked, when does someone compare conventional CNC machining versus 3D printing? 3D printing can never replace something that is already being made the conventional way, unless there's a very strong reason for a switchover, which means I believe people have to see value. What is the real value that they can get out of converting? If someone is making something for a couple of thousand rupees, they cannot expect it the same thing to be made using 3D printing, either at a lesser cost or faster. Just for the sake of converting it, they have to derive value out of it, either by seeing if they have a lot of rejections doing it the conventional way because of its inherent nature. It could be a die or something else, or the complexity in the whole design is be taking either a lot of time or is made a lot of rejections, or the whole development time itself. Each of these advantages that additive offers, unless people are able to see those benefits, there's no way that a conventional one would help them convert into 3D printing. Today, a lot of them are moving towards lightweighted parts. So if they are able to deliver that value to an end customer by telling, we can take your part, make it much lighter, and then offer it to you using 3D printing. And if that lightweight can offer a much higher benefit to the end customer, then there is value. So it is for us to understand much more than just machining or manufacturing, to understand the end application's goal and see how we can add value to it by replacing the technology. Only then 3D printing can come into light. So it cannot be something that people feel that I have something being made conventionally. Can I use it to make? Can I use 3D printing to make it make that same part? It'll have to be deriving the right value out of it. So understanding that value needs a little more science. So that's the. I feel that would be the first question. And I think the second question that you
I
had.
think we are running short of time. I'm
Okay.
to summarize.
I understand.
Maybe if you can close the second part in a
Sure.
minute, I can take the rest 2 minutes to summarize it, sir.
Yeah, so
Please.
there is a lot of manufacturing shift that's happening from the West to China and India. I think on the same lines for additive also, at the rate at which Indians are adapting from a service bureau perspective and machine purchasing perspective, I believe very soon, it's only a matter of time before we will have more manufacturing that is getting converted from the West to India, and Indians will be able to make 3D printed parts as an outsourced activity to the West also. So it's only a matter of time before we see that happening here in India also.
Thank you. Thank you. I see the Sao brothers. It's a sign for us to say goodbye. I will summarize today's discussion. So initially, it was always a pyramid structure where, the hierarchy was you enter with printing, materials, and design. Today, it's a more lateral structure where, design is having its own outlet, so does materials, so hardware. One thing, it's just an impromptu, but I want to personify it. When people say, I'm seeing a lot of questions, what happens abroad? Why can't it happen in India? I call it the SB way, Sridhar Balram Sir way. Don't look at things to happen. I think all of us do this, but Sridhar Sir has done it in a much larger way. But I think everyone present in the panelists, they have done it. They've not waited for someone else to prove, but they've really strived. Maltesh Sir in healthcare, Mahesh Sir in healthcare and aerospace, Imaginarium for a couple of industries, and Vishwas Sir from, like he said, he wanted to know what AM could bring, and he could have just done it, but he invested to really see what is it at stake. So, there is a way where we can wait for others to come and do it, but it's their value creation. If you really want to make a hypothesis, is the step you need to make. And I would conclude today's discussion with that. I again thank the Sahu brothers for extending my time. I couldn't finish my poll as well, but thank you all, and I leave it to Ankit or Arpit if you want to summarize anything. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining in, and it is our great pleasure that we have more than actually 100 crore plus investment in additive manufacturing in this today's call. And it is not just about the money, it is all about the pride people take in getting involved in technology. In India, technology mostly means internet, but manufacturing as per se is the most important and the backbone of any country. And I really hope people likes of Balram sir and Dr. Vishwas in the machine building side, and Mr. Dhoka sir and Maltesh on the medical front, and Nishan Bhai as always in all kind of services and holding the flagship and talking about the evangelizing of 3D printing in India. I think Imaginarium has done that crazy bit, which is very important and which is very much required. So thank you so much for joining us, and it was our great pleasure to host you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Ankit.
Bye bye.
Thanks a lot. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Stay safe, guys.